Well, I'll say this. Bit of sun around here. Trying to make sure everything's right. Hold on. Yeah, well, like I said, I will say this. Yesterday was election day, and pretty much all the polls are closed, or were, ended up closing late last night at the latest. A lot of the results were tallied and still being tallied. But I'll say this. It looks like our president, if you will, our president is going to be in for a heck. Sorry about that. But like I was saying, our president, as of yesterday, pretty much knows that, as reported, come January 8th, if not sooner, he's going to be in for a rude wake-up call. The reason I say that is because the election basically became, I guess you could say, a historical one. Because some people have said that for the first time in a long time, in a very long time, the Senate will be controlled by a majority of Republicans, while the House of Representatives will be controlled by a majority of Democrats. And we pretty much know how a lot of the Democrats feel about Donald Trump. There are a few that support him, but there are those that don't. And pretty much a majority of those Democrats that are running the House do not care for Donald Trump. Now you might say, well, how is this historic? How is this a big deal? Well, this is how it's a big deal, if you will. This is how it's a big deal. You see, everybody knows that when a vote for something or whatever, whenever a new law or some kind of new measure or whatever you want to call it is voted on, that it might pass the Senate, but it's got to go through other channels. One of those channels is the House of Representatives. And if the House of Representatives pass it, then it just needs one more step to become legal, or to become a reality. Maybe a step or two after that. But if the House of Representatives is controlled by Democrats, and a majority of those Democrats do not care for someone like Donald Trump, then pretty much any decision that the Republicans in the Senate may pass and vote on to become law may get downgraded come the House of Representatives. In other words, whatever they want to happen, the House may say, yeah, you guys voted yes for it to pass, but we're going to vote no for it not to pass. In other words, it's going to be a back and forth situation. And that the only way maybe certain measures or laws will be passed the only way, like I said, certain laws and measures may be passed is if there is a, how do I put this? Is if there is basically a balancing out. Like I said, if there's a balancing out. In other words, the only way the House will agree with the Senate in any kind of way is if whatever measure or law they want to see pass and become reality is done in a way that benefits both sides, benefits both what the Republicans want to have happen and what the Democrats want to see happen, and mostly the overall agreement being how does it benefit the country, the people that live in this country. That right there is going to be is going to be the major factor. The only way that certain things are going to be agreed upon, like I said, the only way certain things are going to be agreed upon is basically if there is a middle ground. Is if both Democrats and Republicans from the Senate and the House come to some kind of mutual agreement or satisfactory agreement. Like, in other words, the Republicans get what they want, the Democrats get what they want. That kind of deal. And a lot of people pretty much look at this, and I'm sorry for the wind, but a lot of people pretty much look at this as being exactly what some look at the country right now, completely divided. Because you got the Republicans controlling the Senate, and a majority of the Republicans do support Donald Trump. Some don't, that is true, but a majority of them do, from what a lot of people have said. A majority of Democrats do not support Donald Trump, but there are some that do. So basically you kind of see the situation, right? You kind of see the situation that whatever the Republicans want to have happen, whatever they want to pass as a law or a measure, then it might pass through them, but it may not pass through the House. You see, there's a lot of channels to go through. A lot of different channels for them to go through. Basically, what this election year has done, this election day that occurred 24 hours ago, what it has done is start basically the domino effect that pretty much this country, as some would say, don't need to have happen. Some say that this domino effect of going back, the domino effect basically is this country being totally divided in a way it shouldn't be divided, especially if it's over politics. And like I said, if it's over politics, it's basically because of the fact that you have one group party, the GOP party, that wants to go one way, mostly some would say Trump's way of doing things, and you got another party, the Democrats, that don't want to go that way, they don't want to swing that way. And like I said, and it bears repeating, the only way there's going to be any kind of agreement on anything is if there is a middle ground. Like, hey, you get what you want to get. It's basically going to be like this. Like I said, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's going to be like this. Let's say the Senate, let's say net neutrality. Let's say the Senate wants to come out and say, hey, we want to back Ajit Pai's idea to repel net neutrality and get net neutrality out of here. Let's say the Senate wants to overall agree on that. Okay, fine, it passes the Senate. But now it's got to go to the House, and there's a majority of people at the House, Democrat-wise, that don't like the idea of net neutrality being repelled, so they may say no. So you see what I'm saying? If you're a supporter of net neutrality, you know, this basically probably plays in your favor because the Senate may say yes, but the House will say no. You kind of get what I'm saying? And the House, in a sense, has one of the final says before it goes on to the president's desk. And if they say no to, let's say, net neutrality being extinguished, then pretty much everything that Ajit Pai and the FCC did to get rid of it becomes null and void. But here's another thing. The House also has the power to, from what I'm understanding, to investigate presidents, not just the Senate, but also the House. They have the final say in investigating the president himself and whatever backgrounds and stuff he's not telling us about, and whether or not he's telling us the truth about certain things or he's not. So just because the Senate may have a small fracture of Democrats in those seats, that small faction of Democrats will get backed up by the House of Representative Democrats, because altogether they'll be saying no to whatever situation the Republicans could come up with. Now, I'm not saying that everything that the Republicans vote on and want to see become law and become reality, Democrats won't agree with. They will, because there are some things that everybody will agree with. But when it comes to things that involve Trump, or that Trump wants to see done, I guarantee you, that's where the domino effect of basically dividing our country through political ways is going to come into play, because, you know, the House of Representatives, the Democrats there are going to want to know, why do you want to go and do this? Why do you want to pass this? Or why do you want to make this real? Why do you want to make this law a reality? Or why do you want to pass this measure? You know, they're going to want to know. And if someone in the Republican Party at the Senate says, well, it's because Trump wants it this way, you know Democrats are going to say no. Well, pretty much they already know exactly why the Republicans want to go that route. You kind of see what I'm saying? Basically, January 8th, 2019, because of yesterday's election night and day, or day and night, because of yesterday's election day and night, January 8th is going to become historic due to the fact that it's going to be the first time the president may have one major factor of one major portion of the federal government, you know, the politics and everything on his side, but it'll be the first time in a long time that he has to deal with the opposite on the other side. So even if Trump wants to tell the Republican Party, I want you to make this a law, I want you to vote yes to make this a measure or make this a law so it becomes reality, yeah, they could do that, but the House could end up saying no. Now, one thing I did understand is Trump could veto a lot of what gets decided. Like, if it doesn't go his way, he can veto it. He said, okay, he could be like, you know, I vetoed this decision, you know, let's come up with another one. You know, he'll veto, basically from what I'm understanding, he's going to be doing a lot of vetoing this upcoming year, because anything he wants to see get passed, or anything that people might feel are associated with him, might get what's the old saying? Nipped in the bud. So, yeah, January 8th, it's going to be a back and forth. It's going to be the beginning of a back and forth confrontation between the Senate and the House of Representatives. Because the Senate may swing one way, the House may swing another. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the Senate may swing one way, the House may swing another. So, we'll just have to pay, whether we like politics or we don't, we're just going to have to pay real close attention to what happens January 8th. That's what we're going to have to do. Because again, yesterday's election day and night pretty much made history in the fact that Trump, whether you like him or you don't, is basically going to have his back against the wall when it comes to trying to get what he wants. He's going to have to do a lot of, as some people would say, butt kissing or sucking up to try to get what he wants. So that's really all I have to say on it, guys. Let me know what you all think down below. I got to clock back to work here, and I'll talk to y'all later. But let me know what you guys think.